Hello everyone. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment with where you from and what time it is. That way, YouTube will keep pulling you stories like this. Now, let the shadows take over. When I matched with Lila, I thought I hit the jackpot. She wasn't just pretty, she was stunning. Brown hair, sharp eyes, and this down-to-earth vibe in her profile that didn't scream influencer. She said she'd moved to Franklin, Tennessee recently for work, was trying to meet people, and for some reason she picked me. Most first dates are coffee shops or bars. But after a week of chatting, she suggested something different. She told me she loved cooking and wanted me to come out to her place for a home-cooked meal. A little bold, yeah, but she made it sound casual, like she did this all the time. Her cabin was tucked away off a narrow 2-lane road, about 30 minutes outside town. It looked like something from a postcard. String lights on the porch, smoke curling from the chimney, even a husky trotting around the yard. When she opened the door and hugged me, I felt like I'd stepped into the kind of date guys brag about forever. Inside it smelled like garlic and wine. The table was already set with pasta, candles flickering. She poured me a glass of red, smiled and said, "To new beginnings." I clinked her glass, completely sold. For the first half hour, everything was perfect. We talked about work, music, even our favorite movies. But then she asked me something strange. "What's the worst thing you've ever done?" I laughed nervously, thinking it was some edgy icebreaker. "I don't know. Probably stealing my roommate's beer back in college." She didn't laugh. She swirled her glass and kept staring at me. "No, I mean, the darkest thing. Everyone has one." Her tone gave me goosebumps. I brushed it off, but she kept circling back, asking if I'd ever hurt someone, if I'd ever wished someone dead, if I believed in karma. Her smile never faded, but it didn't feel playful. It felt like an interrogation. After dinner, she brought out dessert, brownies. She cut me a big square but didn't take one for herself. "I'm not really in the mood," she said, "but I want you to enjoy it." I took a bite. It tasted fine. A little bitter, maybe, but good. She sat across from me, chin resting in her hands, just watching me chew. Within minutes, my chest started pounding. My vision blurred at the edges. My arms tingled like pins and needles. I set down the fork, my voice shaky. "Lila, what was in that?" Her smile widened. "You're fine. Just relax. Don't fight it." Panic surged through me. I staggered to my feet, but my legs felt like rubber. I tried heading for the door, but she was already standing there, keys dangling from her hand. "You're not ready to leave," she said calmly. "You'll ruin the night." My heart was hammering. I shoved past her, stumbled out onto the porch, and made for the trees instead of my car. My body was failing me, but adrenaline kept me moving. Behind me, her voice floated through the dark. "You won't get far." Branches whipped at my face as I crashed through the woods. My vision swam, the world tilting sideways, but I pushed until I collapsed against a tree. I thought I'd lost her until I heard it. The bark of her dog. Close. Then the beam of a flashlight cut through the dark. Her footsteps were steady, unhurried. "Come back," she called, almost sing-song. "You'll only make it worse." I pressed against the trunk, holding my breath, praying she'd miss me. But the dog barked again, louder this time, and the light swung my way. "There you are," she whispered. I tried to run, but my body gave out. I fell face first into the dirt as her shadow loomed over me. She crouched, brushing hair from her face, her smile soft and terrifying. "You're perfect," she whispered. "Do you know how rare it is to find someone like you? Someone no one's waiting up for? Someone who won't be missed right away?" Her words sank in just before darkness swallowed me whole. When I came to, I was back inside the cabin. My wrists and ankles were bound with rough rope, tied to a heavy chair that groaned every time I tried to move. My head felt like it was splitting in half, my mouth dry as sand. Lila sat across the table, calmly writing in a leather journal, her pen scratching like nails on paper. The fire crackled in the corner. Her husky paced the floor, tail stiff, ears alert. "You sleep like a rock," she said without looking up. My throat burned, but I forced the words out. "Why are you doing this?" She finally looked up, eyes shining with something unhinged. "Because stories matter. People forget how fragile they are until someone makes them remember. Every man who comes here leaves me something. A memory. A story. You'll be my fifth." Those words hit me harder than the drug. Fifth. My stomach turned. She stood, walked over, and flipped the journal around so I could see. Pages filled with neat, careful handwriting. Dates, names, descriptions. One caught my eye. Tyler, 26, disappeared last winter. Another, James, 29, last seen outside a Franklin bar. My blood ran cold. I yanked at the ropes, but the chair barely budged. She crouched beside me, whispering like she was soothing a child. "Don't waste your energy. No one's coming for you." I prayed she was wrong. Before I left my apartment, I'd texted my roommate her name and address, just in case. It was a dumb safety net, a half-joke, but now it was the only thing I clung to. Hours blurred. She asked more questions, probing my past, pushing for confessions I didn't have. Every time I hesitated, she scribbled in the journal like she was documenting my silence. At one point, she pulled something from the cabinet, a hunting knife with a worn leather handle. She set it on the table between us, blade catching the firelight. "It's simple," she said. "If you give me honesty, I give you mercy. If you lie, I take what I need." My body shook so bad I thought the chair would tip. I stammered through anything I could think of. Fights I'd had, mistakes I'd made, every stupid regret. She listened, smiling, scribbling notes like she was cataloging my soul. And then, just as she reached for the knife, the sound hit, the slam of a door, heavy boots pounding the porch. "Police! Step away from him!" Her head snapped toward the noise. For the first time, her smile vanished. 2 officers stormed in, guns raised, flashlights blinding. She shrieked like an animal, grabbing the knife, lunging toward me. One officer tackled her, the other cut my ropes. My hands were free, numb, shaking. They dragged her out kicking and screaming. "He was mine! You ruined everything!" I sat there trembling, staring at the journal still open on the table. The officer tried to pull me away, but I couldn't move until I looked. Until I saw. The last page she'd written had my name at the top. Beneath it, in perfect handwriting, "Patient, fragile, will break tonight." The cops told me later I was lucky. She'd been on their radar for months. Men disappearing after dates, stories not lining up. But they never had proof. Until I went there. They confiscated her journal. 9 names in total. 9 men who never came back. Even now, when I close my eyes, I see her smile. I hear her whisper, "You'll be my fifth." And I wonder, if the cops had been 10 minutes later, would I have been just another entry in her collection? Most people suggest dinner or drinks for a first date. Harper told me to meet her at a dead drive-in off Route 19. The place had been abandoned for decades, the asphalt split with weeds, the screen torn down the middle like a wound. Rows of rusted speaker poles leaned at angles, and the concession stand sagged with shattered windows and graffiti. The whole lot smelled of damp earth and rust. She was already there when I pulled in, sitting on the hood of her Chevy under the single flickering bulb that still worked. The light buzzed like an insect ready to die. Harper waved me over with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You showed," she said, hopping down. Her denim jacket hung loose, hair wild in the wind. "Most people back out." I tried to joke. "Guess I'm not most people, but why here?" She glanced around at the empty rows, at the gutted stand, at the screen looming like a ghost. Because nobody comes here anymore. No kids, no noise, no interruptions, just us. The way she said just us made something in my gut turn, but I followed her anyway. She had a blanket stretched across her hood, a cooler open beside it, and a battered portable DVD player wired into her car battery. A little stack of scratched horror DVDs lay scattered on the blanket. The Ring, Candyman, Texas Chainsaw. No comedies, no romances. Your idea of a date is a haunted theater marathon? I asked. Her lips curled into a smirk. Fear shows you who people really are. If you can't handle being scared, you can't handle me. We sat shoulder to shoulder while the little screen flickered. At first, it almost felt fun, like urban exploring with someone reckless enough to laugh at broken glass and splintered wood. She was easy to talk to, funny in short bursts, but she had this way of studying me when I answered her questions, like she was measuring more than my words. Half an hour in, she asked, "Do you ever wonder how long someone would look for you if you went missing?" I choked on my drink. That's a hell of a date question. She didn't laugh. Some people vanish, and the world forgets in a week. Some people aren't missed at all. The line sat in my chest like a weight. I turned the can in my hands, trying not to show how much it bothered me. She kept looking past me, toward the far end of the lot. The projector booth was nothing more than a crumbling box with broken windows and a sagging roof, chained shut long ago. But every time her eyes flicked that way, her smile twitched. Finally, I asked, "What are you staring at?" She tilted her head, still watching the booth. "Don't ask. If you see something, don't point it out." "See what?" Her eyes snapped back to mine, calm, serious. "You'll know." The words sank deep, colder than the night air. I tried to focus on the film, but I couldn't shake the sense of being watched. The light above us buzzed, the wind rattled loose tin on the concession stand, and then I heard it. Not wind, not wires. Footsteps. Slow, crunching gravel in the rows behind us. I turned my head before I could stop myself. A figure stood by the projector booth. Too tall. Too thin. Its limbs hung wrong, jerking slightly as if joints bent where they shouldn't. "Harper," I whispered. Her hand clamped around my wrist, grip cold and hard. "Don't point," she hissed. Fear ripped through me. "What the hell is that?" Her lips barely moved. "It notices when you notice. Pretend you didn't see." But I had. And when the flickering light buzzed once more, I realized it wasn't alone. Another figure stood beside it now. Both of them impossibly still, turned our way. My breath caught. I couldn't look away. Harper leaned close, her voice steady, almost tender. "Now we see which one of us it chooses." The silence after her words pressed down like a weight. My ears rang, my skin prickled, and the only sound left was the crunch of gravel moving closer, slow and deliberate. I couldn't see Harper's face, but I felt her breath near my ear, calm and steady. "Don't run," she whispered. "It notices when you run." My chest heaved. I tried to swallow, but my throat was sandpaper. Out by the booth, one of the figures tilted its head, the movement sharp and unnatural, like a puppet yanked by invisible strings. The other bent low, its long arms dragging along the gravel, scraping with a sound like nails on stone. I wanted to believe it was a prank, costumes, anything. But every instinct screamed this wasn't human. I whispered, "What does it want?" Harper didn't look away. Not me. The words gutted me. Her tone was final, practiced, like she'd said it before. The figure started forward, moving in jolts, then stillness, then jolts again, covering yards at a time like the world skipped frames. They were halfway across the lot now. I staggered to my feet. "I'm leaving." Harper didn't flinch. "If you run, it follows. If you stay, sometimes it chooses differently." I couldn't take it. My body refused her rules. I bolted. The lot exploded with sound, gravel exploding under heavy steps, the wet, dragging inhale of something vast filling the night. The air thickened, pressing against my chest. I sprinted toward my car, fumbling my keys with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. I risked a glance back. My stomach flipped. The figures weren't behind me anymore. They were closer. Too close. One of them stretched its arms along the poles, scraping metal until sparks flew. The other crouched low, its faceless head jerking toward me in sharp twitches. My lungs burned. I reached the car, dove inside, and slammed the lock down just as a shadow swept across the windshield. The headlights roared to life. For a second, I thought I was safe, until I saw her. Harper stood directly in front of the car, smiling, not out of breath, not even moving like she'd run. Just there, waiting. Behind her, the figures loomed taller than the screen, their pale skin catching the light like stretched wax. She lifted a hand and pointed at me. The taller figure lunged. I jammed the car into reverse, tires screaming against broken asphalt. The rearview mirror showed nothing but black. No screen, no poles, no booth. Just void swallowing everything behind me. Panic tore through me. I slammed into drive and swerved around Harper, the figures bending unnaturally as my headlights slid across them. They didn't chase. They didn't need to. The last thing I saw before tearing down Route 19 was Harper, standing calm under the dead bulb, her smile too wide, her eyes unblinking. I didn't stop driving until I reached a gas station 20 miles out, its neon buzzing, the lot full of trucks and voices. My body shook so violently I thought I'd dropped the keys. That's when I saw it, a folded slip of paper on the passenger seat. I hadn't put it there. I hadn't even noticed it when I climbed in. With trembling hands, I opened it. 4 words, written in neat block letters. You weren't chosen, yet. Blind dates are awkward enough. Blind double dates are a whole different level of pressure. Nate had been on my case for months about being single, so when he suggested setting me up with his girlfriend's best friend, I gave in. The selling point was that it wouldn't be just the two of us. It would be a casual group thing at a diner, no pressure, no weird silences. Just 4 people, some late-night food, easy conversation. The diner sat just off I-81, a red neon sign buzzing against the night sky. The parking lot was full. Semis lined up on the far end, a few cars scattered near the doors, and the faint glow of cigarettes drifting in the cold air as drivers stretched their legs. Inside, the smell hit first. Fried food, burnt coffee, syrup that clung to the booths. The place was alive, even at 10 at night. Truckers hunched over counter stools, construction guys laughed too loud in a corner booth, and a pair of teenagers slurped milkshakes with their heads bent close. Plates clattered, silverware scraped, and the jukebox in the corner sputtered out old country songs. If there was anywhere safe for a first meeting, it was here. Nate spotted his girlfriend, Jess, waving from a booth near the back, and next to her was Maren, my date. She looked up when we approached, smiling shyly, tucking a curl of hair behind her ear. She was prettier than Nate had described, but what struck me most was her eyes. Sharp, alert, like she was always calculating. We slid in, Nate beside Jess, me across from Maren. She gave me a small wave. So you're the infamous roommate, she teased. I grinned. Infamous good or infamous bad? Guess we'll see, she said, a flicker of humor softening her nerves. Menus were passed around, orders placed, coffee poured. The small talk was easy. Music, work, Jess and Nate trading inside jokes that made Maren roll her eyes. She told me about her job at a vet clinic. I told her about mine at a warehouse, and somewhere in there, the awkwardness eased. By the time plates of fries and burgers hit the table, it almost felt like we'd known each other longer than a night. She leaned forward when I talked, laughed at my dumb jokes, and for a while I forgot I was on display in a setup orchestrated by my best friend. The bell above the door jingled. I didn't notice at first. Just another customer in a busy place. but Maren did. Her smile vanished mid-laugh. Her hand froze on her cup, gripping it so tight the ceramic squeaked against the saucer. I followed her gaze. A man had just stepped inside. Early 30s maybe, in a dark jacket and work boots. Average build, average face, except for his eyes. They were locked on our booth like he'd walked in looking for us specifically. When he saw Maren, his whole face changed. His lips stretched into a smile that was too wide, too certain, like he'd found something he'd lost. Maren whispered, "Oh no." Nate glanced at her. "What is it?" She didn't answer, but her voice shook when she said, "That's my ex." The man didn't hesitate. He walked straight toward us, weaving between tables with an easy stride, like he belonged here. People moved out of his way without even looking up. He slid into the booth beside Maren without asking, close enough that she pressed herself against the wall to get away. "Maren," he said smoothly, ignoring the rest of us. "Didn't think I'd find you here." Her voice cracked. "Eli, please leave." He flagged down a waitress without looking away from her. "Coffee, black?" Then he leaned back, one arm draped along the booth behind her, casual as anything. I stared. "Hey, man," she said. He cut me off with a flick of his eyes. "Not talking to you." The waitress dropped off the coffee. He didn't touch it. Steam curled up between us, invisible tension no one else in the diner seemed to notice. Nate shifted, about to say something, but Eli turned his head just enough to glance at him. That glance was all it took. Nate sat back down, jaw tight, shoulders stiff. Maren's voice was almost a whisper. "We're on a date, Eli. You need to leave." Eli smiled wider. "You're on my date. They're just extras." Jess shot him a glare. "Excuse me?" He ignored her. He leaned closer to Maren, lowering his voice just enough that only our booth could hear. "Did you tell them? Did you tell them what happens when you lie to me?" Maren's eyes glistened. She didn't answer. She just kept staring at her hands, white-knuckled around her cup. The rest of the diner buzzed on, oblivious. Plates clattered, teenagers laughed, a baby cried near the front. No one saw what was happening in our little bubble. Eli finally looked at me, his expression calm like he was sizing me up. "So, you're the new guy?" I swallowed. "We just met tonight." He sipped his coffee finally, grimaced like it was too bitter, then set it back down. "That's the thing about new people. They think they've been told the truth." My pulse hammered. "Look, whatever your problem is, you need to." He chuckled, cutting me off again. "My problem? My problem is watching someone I love pretend like I don't exist. My problem is watching her sit here, laughing, like I didn't make her what she is." The words made my skin crawl. Maren whispered, "Please stop." He tapped his spoon against the mug, the sound sharp, rhythmic. "You didn't tell them, did you?" She shook her head fast, eyes wet now. "Didn't think so." He slid a hand under the table. At first I thought he was reaching for her leg. Then I saw the glint of steel. A knife. Tucked tight against his arm, angled so no one walking by would notice. My stomach dropped. Jess went pale. Nate's fists clenched under the table. I wanted to shout, but my throat locked. The diner was full of people, and yet in that moment we were completely alone. Eli leaned back, relaxed, eyes never leaving Maren. "You can keep pretending this is your night, but we both know it isn't. It never is." The knife shifted under the table, the light catching just enough for all of us to see. And that was when I realized he wasn't just here to talk. He wasn't leaving until this night belonged to him. The booth went dead quiet. Maren pressed herself against the wall, her hands trembling around her cup. Jess's face drained white, Nate's fists clenched under the table, and I could barely swallow. Eli just smiled, calm, steady, like the blade wasn't even a weapon but a promise. He tapped the tip of the knife against the wood, a slow, deliberate rhythm that only we could hear. Funny, isn't it? Sitting here, pretending this is your night, pretending I'm not right here. But I've always been here, Maren. Always. Her voice cracked. Eli, stop. The rest of the diner kept humming along. A baby cried near the counter. Teenagers laughed too loud over their milkshakes. Plates clattered in the kitchen. No one looked our way. It was as if the booth was invisible. I forced my voice steady. Put it away. You're making a mistake. Eli finally turned his eyes on me, calm and cold. You think I'm making a mistake? No. I made a mistake once, letting her walk away. Tonight I fix that. His gaze cut back to Maren. Tell them what happened the first time you lied to me. Tears brimmed in her eyes. She shook her head fast. Eli leaned in, lowering his voice. Do it, or I'll make them find out my way. Jess grabbed Nate's arm under the table. Nate looked like he was ready to swing, but the angle of the blade made it clear. One wrong move, and Eli would drive it into Maren's ribs before anyone took a breath. The scrape of the knife against the underside of the table sent shivers up my spine. He whispered something only she could hear. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Finally, she whispered, I'll go, just not here. Eli smiled faintly. Good girl. My chest tightened. No, you're not taking her anywhere. He looked at me again, calm as ever. You think this is your call? You think she's yours? She's not. She's mine. Always has been. Maren sobbed, covering her mouth with her hands. Jess shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting around the diner as if begging someone to notice. But nobody looked our way. Nobody saw the knife. Nobody cared. Eli slid out of the booth slowly, tucking the blade back under his sleeve. He extended his hand toward Maren like a gentleman. Come on, let's not make a scene. She stood on shaky legs, eyes wide, lips trembling. Nate tried to grab her wrist, but Eli shifted the knife just enough that we all froze. Sit down, he told Nate, his tone sharp but quiet. Nate obeyed. Maren moved around the table, her steps small, reluctant, like she was walking to her own funeral. Eli placed a hand on her back, guiding her toward the door. My pulse roared in my ears. Every part of me screamed to jump up, to stop him, to do something. But my legs wouldn't move. One wrong lunge and she'd be dead before I reached them. The bell above the diner door jingled as it swung open. Cold night air rushed in. The sound of it felt final. They stepped out together and then the door shut. I snapped out of it, leaping from the booth, but by the time I pushed through the door, the lot was empty. No car. No footsteps. No Maren. Just silence under the buzzing neon. We called the cops. Our voices shook as we stumbled over what happened. Officers came, asked questions, took notes, and fanned out across the parking lot. But Eli and Maren were gone, vanished like smoke. Not a single diner patron claimed to have noticed anything. No one saw the knife. No one saw them leave. Days blurred together. I didn't sleep. I kept waiting for news, a call, anything. Nothing came. 2 weeks later, I found it. A slip of paper shoved under my apartment door. No envelope, no return address. Just 4 words in steady block letters. She came home. Finally. Dating apps are like lottery tickets. Most end up worthless, but once in a while you think you've hit something. That's how it felt when I matched with Kira. She wasn't like the others who dragged conversations for days. Her first message was direct. Come over Friday, I'll be house-sitting. Most people want coffee or drinks in public. She wanted me at a house. When I pulled up, I understood why. This wasn't some average suburban place. It looked like a mansion from a magazine. Stone pillars, wrought iron gates, hedges trimmed like sculptures. Every window glowed with warm light, but the house itself loomed too big, too quiet, like it was keeping secrets. Kira was waiting on the porch with a glass of wine, hoodie, and ripped jeans, her hair tucked behind one ear. She smiled when she saw me. Glad you showed. Most guys ghost when I say come over. I tried to laugh. Guess I'm not most guys. Inside, the place felt colder than it looked. Hardwood floors stretched down long halls lined with antique mirrors. Oil paintings of stern-faced strangers stared down at us. The air smelled faintly of lemon polish, and something else, metallic, sharp, like iron. Pretty big job, house-sitting this place, I said. Belongs to my mom's boss, she answered. They're out of the country for 2 weeks. I just water plants and pretend it's mine. She smirked. Creepy though, right? Like every corner's watching. She wasn't wrong. Even with the lights on, shadows clung to the walls like they belonged there. We set up in the living room, wine on the glass table, soft music playing. At first it felt almost normal. She was witty, sharp, a little intense but easy to talk to. She asked about my job, rolled her eyes at my boring answers, laughed when I teased her back. But the longer we talked, the more I caught her glancing past me toward the hallway. Not once, not twice. Constantly, like she was waiting for something. Finally, I asked, "What's back there?" Her smile tightened. "Nothing you need to worry about." I tried to joke. That's exactly what someone says before everything goes wrong in a horror movie. She smirked again, sipping her wine. Maybe that's why I like horror movies. They tell the truth people ignore. Her words didn't leave my head. We moved to the kitchen later. Granite counters, spotless chrome appliances, bowls of fruit that looked fake. That's when I heard it. A sound that didn't belong in a polished house. A muffled thump, low and heavy from under the floor. I froze. Did you hear that? Kira didn't even flinch. She uncorked another bottle. Old house. Pipes. Don't start freaking out. But it came again. A dragging sound this time, like something heavy shifting against concrete. My chest tightened. That's not pipes. Her smile returned, deliberate and cold. I told you not to worry about it. She poured another glass and slid it across the counter toward me. Drink, relax. If you can't handle a little noise, you're not going to survive the rest of tonight. I didn't touch it. My ears strained against the silence. Then the sound returned. A scrape, metal against stone, closer now. Chains. Kira, I whispered. There's someone down there. She finally looked at me, her eyes dark and steady. For the first time all night, her smile faded. Now you hear it too. Her voice was low, calm, almost satisfied. Like the sound wasn't a threat, but a secret she'd been waiting for me to notice. I backed up a step, my hand brushing the counter. What do you mean, too? Kira leaned on the counter casually, twirling the stem of her wine glass. You think you're the first one who's heard it? No. The house makes everyone hear eventually. But most people pretend it's nothing. That's how they survive a night in here. The scraping noise came again, longer this time, dragging metal, like something pacing slowly below our feet. I felt it vibrate faintly through the tiles. Kira, you need to tell me what's down there. She tilted her head, studying me the way someone studies a test animal. If I tell you, you'll run. And if you run, it notices. That's when it really starts. She moved toward the hallway, her bare feet silent on the wood. I wanted to bolt for the front door, but my body wouldn't cooperate. Curiosity welded me in place. Curiosity and dread. Kira, stop. My voice cracked. She didn't. She slipped a keyring from her pocket and dangled it between her fingers, the metal jingling softly. You came here for a date, and this is where the date goes. Downstairs. I followed against every instinct as she padded toward a narrow stairwell at the far end of the hall. The air grew colder the deeper we went, the polished wood giving way to rough concrete, the smell of damp earth and rust filling my nose. At the bottom sat a heavy door with peeling green paint secured by a thick padlock. The chain rattled faintly against the doorframe like something on the other side was waiting for us. Kira slid a key into the lock. My breath came fast. Shallow. Don't, I whispered. Her eyes flicked up at me, that sharp smile spreading again. If you wanted safe, you should have swiped left. The padlock clicked. The latch snapped open. The door groaned wide. The smell hit me first. Rot, old blood, and mildew, thick enough to make me gag. A single bulb swung overhead, its pull chain dangling low. The room beyond was wide, stone-walled, like a bunker. And there, chained against the far wall, was a man. Or what used to be a man. His wrists were bound in iron cuffs bolted to the concrete, skin raw and torn. His ribs showed through his chest, his skin paper pale. His head jerked up at the light, and I saw his eyes, glassy, bloodshot, but alive. Alive and desperate. "Help me," he croaked, his voice breaking into a wet cough. I staggered back. Jesus Christ. Kira stepped closer like she was showing me off a trophy. He's been here longer than I've known this house. They don't let him leave, they don't let him die either. The man strained against the chains, his voice stronger now. Raw. "Don't listen to her. Run. Get out." Kira's smile sharpened. She crouched beside him, brushing a strand of hair off his filthy face. He flinched like her touch burned. "He says that to everyone. It's cute, isn't it?" I shook my head. This isn't real. This is..." But then he convulsed. His chest heaved violently, like something was moving under his skin. His jaw stretched too far, teeth grinding against each other with a sickening scrape. A noise spilled out of him that wasn't human, a low growl rising into a screech that rattled the bulb above. Kira looked back at me, her eyes glittering. "The family calls it hunger. It eats through whoever's left inside, but it never finishes. So they chain it, and they feed it. That's where you come in." My stomach dropped. No. She stood, turning toward me slowly. "You didn't think this was about flirting and wine, did you? I brought you here because the house needed you. Because he needed you." The chains snapped. The man, the thing, lunged forward, dragging the bolts halfway out of the wall. His body bent wrong, arms jerking like marionette strings pulled too tight. His jaw unhinged wider, saliva stringing between shattered teeth. I bolted up the stairs. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, drowning everything but the sound of chains crashing behind me. The bulb flickered, then burst, plunging the basement into darkness. Kira's laughter followed me up. "Run faster. If he catches you quick, it won't hurt. But if he's hungry enough, oh, you'll wish it ended fast." I slammed into the kitchen, skidding on the polished floor, fumbling for the front door. The knob jammed, my sweaty palms slipping. Behind me, a mirror in the hallway shattered, spraying glass. Something was crawling closer, its movement scraping the floor like nails on wood. The lock gave. I stumbled into the night, sprinting for my car. The driveway seemed a mile long, the hedges looming like walls. I fumbled the keys, dropped them once, twice, my hands shaking so hard I could barely see straight. Behind me, the porch light flared on. Kira stood in the glow, sipping her wine, calm, composed, while a shadow crouched beside her. The thing, its head cocked at a broken angle, its mouth hanging open too wide. I got the door open, threw myself in, and slammed the locks. The engine roared as I peeled out, gravel spitting under my tires. I didn't look back until the gates shrank in the mirror, and that's when I saw it. A folded slip of paper resting on the passenger seat. My stomach dropped. I hadn't put it there. I picked it up with trembling hands. 4 words scrawled in neat, steady handwriting. "Next time, you're first." First dates are supposed to feel awkward, not dangerous. That's what I told myself when I pulled into the cracked asphalt lot of the Hollow Pines Motel. A dozen flickering neon letters buzzed above me, half burned out, so the sign just read Low Pines. She'd picked the spot, not me. Her name was Rowan. We matched on a dating app, and she had this energy in her messages. Quick, teasing, the kind of confidence that makes you forget caution. She didn't want a coffee shop or crowded bar. She wanted this place. "Trust me," she'd typed. "You'll like it." I sat in my car a minute, debating turning back, but then she walked out the lobby doors and waved. Black jacket, dark hair, cigarette glowing between her fingers. She looked just like her photos, but sharper, more alive. "You made it," she said when I got out. Her voice was low, a little rough, like she'd been laughing or crying before I showed up. I smiled nervously. "Yeah," couldn't resist the glowing sign. She smirked. "Oh, it gets better. Come on." We didn't head toward the lounge like I expected. Instead, she led me along the row of doors, past peeling paint and busted light fixtures. At the end, she stopped at room 6B. The door was already cracked open. I hesitated. "We're just going in?" "Manager's a friend," she said, pushing it wider. "Lets me use this one. It's better than sitting in the parking lot, right?" Inside smelled faintly of bleach and mildew. The bedspread was floral, faded, the carpet stained dark near the corners. A single lamp glowed weakly in the corner, making the shadows look heavier. Rowan dropped onto the edge of the bed like she owned the place. "Relax, it's just a room." I closed the door behind me, though something in my chest said I shouldn't. "Kinda creepy." She tilted her head. "Creepy makes it fun." We talked for a while, the kind of shallow first date stuff that never matters. Where we grew up, crappy jobs we hated, music we pretended to still like. But the whole time, I felt watched. Not by her, by the room. The mirror above the dresser kept catching my eye. It was too big for a motel mirror framed in heavy black metal. When I shifted, the reflection didn't quite match. A half-second delay, like bad video lag. "Is that mirror weird to you?" I asked finally. Rowan glanced over her shoulder, then smiled faintly. "Not weird. Special." Before I could press, a sound came from the wall behind the headboard. A hollow thud. Then another, softer. Like knuckles tapping from the other side. I froze. "Did you hear?" "Yeah," she said casually, lighting another cigarette. "Don't worry. This place has thin walls." But the tapping wasn't random. 3 knocks. A pause. Then 2. Deliberate. "Rowan," I said slowly. "Who's in that room?" Her eyes met mine. Steady. Calm. She exhaled smoke toward the ceiling. Not a who. A what. The knocks came again, harder this time, rattling the headboard. My skin prickled. I stood up. "Okay, seriously, what the hell's going on?" She just leaned back on her hands, smiling like she was waiting for me to catch up. "Don't be so jumpy. First dates are supposed to be memorable." The mirror flickered. Just for a second. But in that second, my reflection didn't move with me. It was still sitting on the bed, smiling. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. The reflection tilted its head, studying me, before lifting a hand and pressing it flat against the glass. My own hand stayed clenched at my side. The smile never wavered. Rowan exhaled smoke like this was nothing more than a show she'd been waiting to watch. "Don't fight it. It's always easier when you don't." The mirror shuddered, a faint crack spreading like frost. Behind the wall, the pounding started again, steady, deliberate, shaking the headboard. The reflection leaned closer, lips moving out of sync with mine, whispering in a warped, broken version of my voice. "Switch." I stumbled back, nearly tripping over the chair. "Rowan, what the hell is happening?" She didn't answer. She just smiled wider, her eyes shining in the dim light. The pounding grew louder. Then, silence. From the bathroom came the sound of water rushing. Not clear water, but thick, black, spilling across the tiles and creeping onto the carpet. The stench of iron and rot filled the room. The reflection pressed harder, and the cracks splintered wider. Shards of glass bent outward, not inward, like the mirror was trying to spit me out. "Switch," it whispered again. I lunged for the door. The knob didn't budge. It was like pulling on cold stone. The bathroom light fizzled, and something pale moved in the dark doorway. A hand, slick and trembling, dragging itself forward. Rowan finally spoke, her voice calm and steady. "This is what it does. It wants out, and it wants you." The reflection slammed both hands against the glass. My ears rang with the sound, sharp as breaking bone. Then it leaned forward, pressing its forehead to the crack, smile stretching too far. Switch. I grabbed the lamp, hurled it with all my strength. The glass shattered, the bulb burst, but the frame stayed whole. My reflection didn't disappear. It stepped forward. Out. It moved like me, but wrong. Jerky, bending joints the way they shouldn't bend. Its grin never faded. It looked at Rowan first, who only nodded. Then its eyes locked on me. I bolted to the window, clawed at the glass, but it didn't give. It didn't even feel like glass. Cold. Smooth. Steel. The thing moved closer, whispering again in my broken voice. "Switch." I swung the chair at it, but it barely flinched. My fists passed through it like smoke, yet every blow left my arms weaker, heavier, until my knees buckled. Rowan's laugh cut through the ringing in my ears. "You're almost done." The reflection lunged. Darkness swallowed everything. When I opened my eyes, I was on the bed. My hands rested calmly in my lap. Rowan sat beside me, lighting another cigarette. I tried to stand, but nothing moved. My voice caught in my throat. Because I wasn't on the bed anymore, I was in the mirror. My body, or the thing that had replaced me, leaned forward and whispered to Rowan, "Thanks for trusting me." She blew out smoke toward the ceiling. "Welcome to Hollow Pines, hope you like the view." I slammed my fists against the glass until blood smeared across the surface. My reflection only tilted its head, smiling wider, while Rowan never looked at me again. First dates are supposed to be simple. Coffee, drinks, maybe a movie. Not barreling down the interstate at midnight with someone I'd only matched with 3 days earlier. Her name was Maeve. We'd been trading messages all week. She wasn't shy. She called instead of texting. Told me I sounded nervous, laughed in a way that made me want to prove I wasn't. By Friday night, she said, "Let's go for a drive, just you, me, and the road." I almost said no. Who meets a stranger for their first date in the middle of the night on an empty highway? But her voice had this tone. Confident, teasing, like she knew I'd come anyway. And she was right. So there I was, headlights carving out a narrow slice of I-81, the rest swallowed by darkness. Maeve sat in the passenger seat, one leg tucked under her, hair spilling over her jacket. She smelled faintly of smoke and peaches, a mix that shouldn't have worked but did. "You always this uptight?" she asked, glancing at my white-knuckled grip on the wheel. "Not usually, just, I don't normally drive around at midnight for a first date." She smirked. "You say that like it's a bad thing. Weird makes it fun." She had a way of making everything sound like a dare. For a while, it was almost normal. We traded stories about our worst jobs, terrible roommates, first heartbreaks. I found myself laughing more than I thought I would. But the longer we drove, the emptier the world around us felt. Exits slipped past without lights, without gas stations or restaurants. The interstate looked endless, stretching into nothing. It hit me that I hadn't seen another car in nearly half an hour. No headlights ahead, no taillights behind. Just us and the white lines rushing under my tires. Maeve leaned forward suddenly, pointing. "Take that one." It was a narrow ramp I'd barely noticed, cutting off into the trees. The GPS rerouted instantly, the voice calm. "Continue for 3 miles." I hesitated. That doesn't even look like a real exit. Her smile widened. "Trust me. It's better." I followed. The ramp dropped us onto a 2-lane road with patchy asphalt, the kind of place where the paint had long since faded. The trees closed in, branches scraping against the roof. I slowed, uneasy. The GPS spoke again. Continue for 3 miles. But the map wasn't showing anything. Just a blank screen, the arrow hovering in empty black space. I tapped it. Nothing. That's not right. Maeve sat back, eyes fixed on the road ahead. Don't worry about it. Just drive. The trees thinned, opening to a wide shoulder. That's when I saw them. 2 cars sat abandoned side by side. Dust coated every surface, windows fogged with grime. One still had its headlights faintly glowing, battery almost drained. A jacket hung from the driver's side door like someone had left in a hurry. I slowed without meaning to. What the hell? Maeve leaned close, her voice a whisper at my ear. Don't stop. Something in her tone made my stomach twist. I pressed the gas, rolled past them. The silence in the car thickened, pressing against my chest. Half a mile later, another vehicle appeared on the shoulder. Hood popped, driver's door wide open. No one inside. My hands tightened on the wheel. Maeve, why are there cars out here? She didn't answer right away. When she finally did, her smile was still fixed. Because they stopped. I glanced at her. Stopped for what? Her eyes flicked toward the trees. You'll see. Branches snapped somewhere in the dark. I looked in the rearview mirror. For the briefest moment, I thought I saw shapes between the trees. Tall, thin, leaning forward like they were watching us pass. Too tall to be people. I blinked. The road behind us was empty. The GPS chimed again. Continue for 3 miles. Maeve placed her hand lightly on my arm. Warm, steady, too steady. And you won't stop, right? My throat tightened at the way Maeve's hand lingered on my arm. I forced a laugh, shaky. You're starting to sound like a horror movie. Her eyes didn't leave mine. Maybe that's why you swiped right. The GPS chimed again. Continue for 3 miles. The voice was flat, mechanical, but now it repeated the line twice, overlapping itself. My skin prickled. I pressed harder on the gas. The road stretched ahead, perfectly straight, the lines bright in my headlights. But no matter how far I drove, the same mile marker kept appearing. Mile 237, 3 times in 10 minutes. Maeve hummed under her breath, an old tune I didn't recognize, soft but deliberate, like she was keeping time with something. Then I saw it, another car on the shoulder. A dark SUV, driver's door open. A purse spilled onto the gravel. No people. I swerved slightly to avoid looking, but the headlights caught a shape deeper in the woods. A face. No. Faces. White, too pale. Dozens of them all staring between the trees. I blinked, and they were gone. My chest heaved. Maeve, tell me what's happening. She smiled faintly, like she'd been waiting for me to ask. Every road has places people vanish. This one just hides better than most. What do you mean vanish? She leaned back, watching me carefully. They drive until they stop. Then something takes them. Not quickly. Not gently. But it always takes them. And now it wants you. The words made my stomach flip. Why the hell would you bring me here? Her expression didn't change. Because it doesn't like to wait too long. And I don't like being chosen. The way she said chosen made my blood run cold. The GPS chimed again, louder this time. Continue for 3 miles. The screen glitched, the arrow jerking back to the same blank point. No matter how fast I drove, we weren't leaving. The trees bent toward the road, branches arching like ribs closing over us. A scraping sound rattled under the car, like metal dragging along the asphalt. I gripped the wheel so hard my hands ached. I'm turning around. Maeve's smile disappeared. Her hand shot out, grabbing the wheel with surprising strength. No, you keep going? I shoved her off, heart pounding. Are you crazy? She stared at me, eyes wide, almost pleading. If you stop, they notice. If you turn around, they notice faster. The scraping under the car grew louder, a horrible metallic shriek. My headlights flickered, cutting out for half a second, just long enough to see tall, stick-thin shapes pacing us along the tree line. Dozens of them, their heads bent, their faces blank. I slammed the gas. The speedometer hit 80, then 90, but the road never changed. Mile marker 237 flashed again. Maeve leaned close, her whisper hot against my ear. It's not about speed. It's about choice. Don't make the wrong one. What choice? I shouted. The GPS answered. 1 mile. Stop. I froze. What the hell does that mean? Maeve's smile returned, sharp, cruel. It means one of us gets out. My pulse thundered. Out? No way. She didn't blink. You think this was a date? No, this was an exchange. Someone always has to feed the road. It's not going to be me. I swerved again, panic choking me. The shapes at the tree line pressed closer, their faces flashing in and out of my headlights. The scraping grew unbearable. Maeve's hand slid toward the door handle. Stop the car and I'll tell it to take you quickly. No, I hissed. I'm not playing this. She laughed, low and cruel. You already are. The GPS chimed one last time. Stop. 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 The engine died. The wheel locked. The car slowed on its own, coasting to a stop at the side of the road. The forest went silent. Then, the knocking started. Not from outside, from under the car. Heavy, deliberate thuds shaking the chassis. Maeve's smile widened. She opened her door slowly, the dome light flickering above her. Good luck. I lunged to grab her, but she slipped free, vanishing into the trees. The knocking grew louder. Something dragged itself along the undercarriage, scraping metal, until I saw fingers, pale, impossibly long, curl over the hood. I locked my door, breath ragged, but the glass beside me darkened. A face pressed against it, featureless and smooth like stretched wax. Then another, and another. Dozens, all whispering in voices that weren't theirs. Stop. 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 I slammed my eyes shut. When I opened them, the car was empty. Maeve was gone. The keys sat in the ignition, but the dashboard was dead. In the rearview mirror, the back seat wasn't empty. A shape sat there, too tall for the car, head bent forward, breath rattling. The last thing I heard before the lights cut out was my own voice whispering back at me. Your turn. I never thought my first date with Naomi would start with an argument over popcorn sizes, but that's exactly how it went. She insisted on a large, said we could just refill it if things went well. I told her she was an optimist. She grinned like she already knew the night would end her way. The theater she picked wasn't one of the big chains. It was a crumbling old place tucked between a laundromat and a pawn shop, its neon sign buzzing with half the letters burned out. Meter Thea was all that glowed above the doors. Quaint, I said, following her inside. Authentic, she corrected. You don't get atmosphere at a Regal. She wasn't wrong. The carpet smelled faintly of mildew. The posters were decades out of date, and the girl at the ticket booth didn't even look up when Naomi asked for 2 tickets to the midnight showing. She just slid them across without a word. The place was almost empty. Just a handful of people scattered across the seats. A man in a gray coat sitting perfectly straight in the back row. A woman with long hair draped down over her face in the middle, and a couple kids slouched in the front. None of them had snacks. None of them moved. Naomi whispered, "Guess it's a private screening." We sat near the center. The screen flickered to life, the projector rattling like old bones. The previews rolled, except they weren't real previews. They looked like footage spliced together from someone's home camera. A man walking into his house, shutting the blinds. A woman washing her hands in the sink. A kid standing in a backyard at dusk, staring at the tree line. I leaned toward Naomi. This is experimental, I guess? She shrugged, but even she looked uneasy. Maybe it's some indie art thing. The film stuttered. The sound cut in and out, static buzzing louder than dialogue. Then the picture froze on a frame that made my stomach lurch. It was us, Naomi and me, walking into the theater, framed perfectly by the camera above the doors. I laughed nervously, waiting for her to roll her eyes, but she didn't. She just gripped my arm a little tighter. "Okay," I said, forcing a smile. "Coincidence, right? Just surveillance footage." But then the screen cut again, showing us inside the lobby. Me handing the cashier my card, Naomi adjusting her jacket. The timestamp read 11:48 p.m. It was 11:48 now. I glanced around. The other patrons hadn't moved an inch. Not a blink, not a twitch. Naomi leaned close, her voice tight. "Why aren't they watching the screen?" I turned. She was right. Every one of them was facing forward, but their eyes were fixed on us. The film stuttered again. On screen, I saw myself lowering into my seat, popcorn tub balanced on my lap, Naomi sliding in beside me. The timestamp rolled forward. 11:49, 11:50, 11:51. And the footage kept showing us sitting there, staring at the screen, as though the camera was somewhere inside the theater, filming us right now. I swallowed hard, trying not to look at the frozen faces around us. Naomi whispered, "Let's go." We stood careful not to spill the popcorn and started toward the aisle. The screen flickered again, and there we were, standing, walking up the aisle. Only this time, in the film, we never reached the exit. We just kept walking up, row after row, until we vanished into the dark at the very back of the theater. I froze mid-step, staring. Naomi tugged at my sleeve. "Come on." But something about the screen made it impossible to move. The man in the gray coat in the back row finally stood. His head turned toward us, slow, mechanical, like he'd just remembered he had a body. And the projector rattled louder, as if it was waiting for us to finish our part in the scene. Naomi gripped my wrist hard enough to hurt. "Don't stop walking." Around us, the air shifted, a scrape of fabric, the faint shuffle of shoes, as more figures stirred in their seats, rising in eerie unison, every head turning toward the aisle. We hurried upward, shoes crunching on spilled kernels. The glowing exit sign seemed close, but every step stretched longer than it should have, as if the aisle was lengthening to keep us inside. The projector rattled louder, gears grinding like teeth. Naomi pulled me faster. "Don't look back." But I did. The patrons were filing into the aisles now, movements stiff and puppet-like, their faces pale in the flickering light. Not one of them blinked. Their mouths opened in perfect sync, but no sound came out, just the hiss of the projector filling the silence. We reached the door and shoved against it. It didn't move. Naomi hammered the push bar, panic rising in her throat. I should have helped her, but my eyes were drawn to the screen. It wasn't showing the movie anymore. It was showing us, Naomi and me, right there at the door, pounding, pushing, failing. The timestamp rolled forward in real time, 12:01, 12:02, 12:03, and with each minute the people on screen looked less like us and more like those patrons behind us, stiff, glassy-eyed, drained of color. Naomi shouted, "Help me!" I rammed my shoulder against the door, once, twice. It groaned but didn't give. The projector's rattle built to a shriek, then sudden silence. When I looked back, every patron had stopped moving. They stood frozen in the aisle, staring, their mouths still hanging open. And in that silence, I realized there was breathing behind the screen. Heavy, close. The fabric rippled, shadows shifting underneath. Naomi clawed at my arm. "It's behind there." The screen bulged outward, stretching with the outline of a face pressing from the other side. Pale lips dragged across the fabric, whispering something we couldn't hear. The projector flickered once and the image changed. Now it showed the theater from above, every seat filled, except two. Ours. Naomi grabbed my face, forcing my eyes on hers. "If we sit down..." "I'm not sitting," I snapped. Her voice broke. "If we don't, it won't stop." The patrons began to move again, slower now, deliberate, like they were waiting for us to choose. Naomi backed toward the seats, shaking her head, whispering, "Just once. Just sit. Maybe it lets us go." I didn't follow. My feet rooted to the sticky carpet, eyes locked on the screen. And then I saw it. In the film, another version of me had already sat down. Same clothes, same hair. But his eyes were pale, cloudy, and when he smiled, it wasn't mine. Naomi's double lowered herself into the seat beside him, stiff and trembling. The projector rattled again, and both of them turned their heads toward me. Not the Naomi next to me, the one on the screen, her pale face, her dead eyes. She whispered something I could hear this time. "Come finish the scene," Naomi screamed, grabbing my arm and dragging me into the row. My legs buckled, the weight of the air pressing me down until I collapsed into the seat. She dropped beside me, sobbing. The patrons filed back into their rows, sitting perfectly in sync, their mouths snapping shut. The screen went black. The projector died. For a moment, silence. Then the movie started again. The opening frame. Me and Naomi walking into the theater, laughing over popcorn. The cycle had started over. But this time, I wasn't in my own body. I was watching, helpless, from inside the screen. My hands pounded against glass no one else could see. The audience didn't blink, and in the seat where I should have been, the pale version of me leaned forward, whispering into Naomi's ear, "Next time, don't argue about the popcorn." It wasn't the kind of date most people would agree to. Dinner and drinks, sure. A walk by the river, fine. But breaking into the old Wexler funeral home at midnight? That was Naomi's idea of fun. "It's not really breaking in," she said, balancing on the cracked stone steps with a mischievous grin. "The lock's been busted for years. High school kids sneak in all the time." "Yeah, to smoke or spray paint," I muttered, glancing up at the sagging roofline. "Not exactly romantic." "That's the point," she teased, pushing the door open with a groan of rusted hinges. "Romance is boring. Fear? That makes you remember someone." Her logic didn't make sense, but the thrill in her voice pulled me inside. The air smelled stale, thick with dust and something faintly metallic that clung to the back of my throat. The main hallway stretched ahead, lined with faded wallpaper and dim sconces that hadn't worked in decades. A staircase curled upward, but Naomi led me down instead, her flashlight beam bouncing across warped wood and peeling paint. We stopped at the basement door. She shot me a sly grin. "Bet you've never been on a first date in a morgue." I wanted to laugh, but the words died in my throat when she pushed the door open. The basement was colder than it should have been. Rows of cabinets lined the far wall, square metal doors with tarnished handles, the kind you'd expect to see in movies, each one big enough for a body. The light caught on the dull brass plaques, names scratched and faded, some unreadable. Naomi walked right in, casual as if it were a bowling alley. She leaned against one of the slabs, her laughter echoing strangely in the low ceiling. "Creepy, huh?" I didn't answer. My skin prickled. Something about the air felt alive, like it was listening. Then one of the drawers creaked. It slid out an inch, metal shrieking against metal. Naomi jerked, flashlight beam skittering across the floor, but when we both looked, nothing. The drawer sat still. She forced a laugh. Old building, things shift. But a second later, another drawer slid open. This one slower, deliberate. The sound crawled under my skin. Naomi's smile faltered. "Okay, that's not wind." I swallowed hard. "Close it." She hesitated, then shoved the drawer shut with a clang that echoed through the room. We both froze, waiting. Silence. Then, all at once, 3 more drawers screeched open in unison. The sound was deafening in the tight space. Naomi's flashlight flickered, beam catching on pale metal sliding out inch by inch. I grabbed her arm. "We're leaving." We turned toward the stairs, but the door we'd come through was closed. I swore I'd left it wide open, but now it sat flush. No handle on this side, just blank wood. Naomi banged her fist against it. "Hey, anyone there?" No answer. Just the squeal of another drawer sliding open behind us. I spun. The brass plaques glimmered in the weak light. For the first time, I noticed the names etched into them. The closest one read, "David, my name." Naomi's voice broke. "What the hell?" Another drawer slid open beside it, plaque glinting in the dark. Naomi. She dropped the flashlight. It clattered across the tiles, spinning the beam wildly across the room. That's when the whispering began. Dozens of voices, soft but sharp, seeping from the open drawers. They spoke no language I knew, but every syllable sank into me like claws. The air grew colder, my breath fogging. Naomi clutched my arm so tight her nails dug in. "Tell me you hear that." I couldn't answer. My eyes were locked on the plaque with my name. The drawer was sliding farther out now, slow, steady, like it was waiting for me to climb inside. And the voices were getting louder. The whispering swelled, a dozen voices murmuring through the metal drawers, layering over each other until it felt like the air itself was vibrating. My name echoed again and again, distorted, broken into syllables. Naomi yanked me toward the door, slamming her shoulder against it. The wood didn't budge. Her breath came ragged, panicked. "We have to get out, we have to—" The flashlight lay on the floor, beam tilted upward. In its glow, I saw the drawer with my name inch-fully open. Inside wasn't empty. White cloth gleamed in the dark, folded stiff, like the edge of a body bag waiting. I stumbled back, my legs heavy, my chest hollow. Naomi's drawer slid farther too. The voices sharpened, whispering her name now over and over, rising in pitch until it was almost a scream. "Don't look at it," she cried, covering her ears. But I couldn't stop. The cold inside that drawer rolled into the room, spilling over my shoes. It wasn't just air. It was presence. A pale hand slid out, fingers long, nails dark, and split. They gripped the drawer's edge and curled around it like claws. Naomi screamed, "No! No!" We bolted, but the door stayed locked, the walls trembling. The light flickered again, and for a second the plaques on every drawer glowed. Name after name, none familiar. Then one more slid open. This one bore today's date. The whispering stopped. Silence crushed down, thicker than before. Naomi sobbed, shaking me. "Tell me this isn't real." But I couldn't speak, because the drawer with today's date had nothing inside. Not a sheet, not a hand, just space wide enough for one of us. The voices started again, lower, clearer, this time in English. "One must stay." Naomi's nails dug into my wrist. "Don't listen." But the drawers slammed shut in perfect rhythm, metal on metal, like a chant. Everyone but the three, mine, hers, and the empty one. I pulled her close, both of us trembling in the dark. We waited out. It's not real. But the air thickened, pressing down, and the room tilted. My knees buckled. Naomi clutched at me, her lips cold, whispering prayers I didn't recognize. Then the lights overhead buzzed to life. Fluorescent tubes snapped on, harsh and blinding. The morgue wasn't empty anymore. Bodies filled the open drawers. Not pale, not rotting, lifelike. Eyes wide, lips moving with the same whispers that had filled the dark. Naomi screamed, pressing herself against the wall. Her drawer snapped fully open behind her. The figure inside looked exactly like her. Same jacket, same tangled hair. Lying perfectly still, eyes shut as though asleep. I spun back. My drawer was open too. Inside was me. Same jacket, same face, only mine wasn't asleep. My double's eyes were open, cloudy and dead, mouth moving in sync with the whispers. "Lie down." Naomi clawed at my chest, shaking her head violently. Don't listen." But the doubles rose. My other self sat up, pale fingers clutching the slab, eyes locked on me. Naomi's double stirred too, lips curving in a faint, terrible smile. The voices thundered all together now, 100 mouths moving as one. "One must stay," Naomi bolted, hammering the door again. "Open, please." The door groaned, wood splitting, but didn't break. My double climbed fully free, bare feet slapping against the tile. Its face hovered inches from mine. Cold breath spilled from its lips as it whispered, "It's easier if you don't fight." I shoved it back, but the moment my hands touched its skin, ice burned through me. My muscles locked, heavy, refusing to move. Naomi's double was circling her now, hands reaching. She shrieked, dodging, her fists swinging wildly. "Don't touch me!" The empty drawer behind us rattled violently, slamming in and out as though hungry. I broke free, grabbed Naomi's hand. "Run!" We lunged at the door together, throwing our weight against it. The wood cracked, and finally it burst. We stumbled into the hallway above, gasping, slamming the door behind us. The whispering cut off. For a heartbeat, silence. Then the brass handle of the basement door twisted. Naomi sobbed, dragging me toward the exit. We ran through the rotten hall, every light flickering above. The front doors loomed ahead, half broken, just as we'd left them. But when we pushed them open, we didn't find the street. We were back in the morgue. The drawers slammed open as one. Naomi screamed, spinning. "No, no, 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 no!" I tried to hold her, but she was yanked backward, sucked into her drawer like gravity had reversed. Her body vanished inside, the slab slamming shut with a final metallic clang. I was alone. The whispers slowed, voices dragging into one steady chant. My name, over and over. The empty drawer slid open behind me. Cold air wrapped around my legs. I clawed at the door again, fists pounding until blood smeared the wood. The whispers rose, deafening, and the last thing I felt was pale hands gripping my shoulders, pulling me backward into the dark, the drawer slamming shut. Silence. I've been on plenty of awkward first dates. Bad food, stilted conversation, mismatched expectations. The usual disasters. But when I matched with Marla, something about her messages felt different. Witty, sharp. She pushed just enough teasing without being annoying. When she suggested we skip the bar and meet at her place instead, I hesitated. Then she sent a laughing emoji and wrote, "Relax. I'm not a psycho. Just hate crowds." I told myself it was fine. People do that all the time. Her building was older. One of those squat brick complexes at the edge of town where the parking lot lights barely work. I almost turned around when I saw the shadows bleeding across the lot, but her silhouette appeared in the window before I could second-guess myself. She waved, then buzzed me in. Marla was prettier than her photos. Not in a model way, but in a sharper, more dangerous way. High cheekbones, black hair tucked behind her ears, a smile that flickered too fast like she was deciding whether to trust me. She hugged me at the door, light and quick, and ushered me into her apartment. It was warm. Too warm. The kind of heat that sticks to your skin. A bottle of cheap red wine sat open on the counter, 2 mismatched glasses waiting. "Sorry for the mess," she said, though nothing looked messy. Sparse, really. A couch, a table, no pictures on the walls, no clutter that suggested anyone had lived there long. We drank and talked, the usual banter about jobs and bad exes. I found myself laughing, drawn in by how easily she carried herself. She made eye contact longer than most people do. It was flattering at first, then oddly intense, like she was studying me. At one point, I excused myself to the bathroom. The hallway was narrow, lined with closed doors. One of them, near the end, had a padlock on the outside. Not the kind of thing you normally see in an apartment. I stopped, staring. Marla's voice floated from the kitchen. "Second door on the left." When I returned, she was pouring more wine. "You okay?" she asked, smirking. "Yeah, just... your hallway's kind of a maze. She laughed. Old building. Doors don't even go anywhere useful. Storage mostly. I let it go. An hour slipped by. She leaned back, stretching, her shirt riding just enough to make me blush. "It's too hot up here," she said casually. "You want to take the bottle downstairs? The basement's cooler." Something in me balked. Most people don't take dates to their basement. But she said it so easily, with that same sly grin, like she was daring me. I followed. The stairwell was narrow, concrete sweating with damp. A single bulb swayed overhead, casting long shadows on the steps. Marla padded ahead barefoot, wine glass in hand, humming softly to herself. At the bottom, she flicked a switch. The light buzzed on, and my stomach knotted. The basement wasn't storage. It wasn't laundry. The walls were paneled with plywood, padded with gray foam in uneven patches. A generator hummed in the corner, feeding wires that crawled to a cluster of cameras mounted on tripods. Red lights blinked in the dark, all pointed at a metal chair bolted to the floor. I froze halfway down the steps. Marla glanced back, her smile curling tighter. "What? Never seen soundproofing before?" My laugh came out strangled. "What is this?" She set her glass on a shelf, arms crossing. "Relax. You look like you've never seen a camera." I stepped back toward the stairs, but the door above had already swung shut. I hadn't heard it close. Marla tilted her head, studying me with that same too long gaze. "Don't look so nervous. You'll ruin the vibe." The generator's hum deepened. One of the cameras clicked, adjusting focus. And then I noticed the stains on the foam. Dark patches spreading outward, sunken into the padding like something had soaked too deep to ever scrub clean. My throat went dry. Marla's smile sharpened. "Don't worry, you'll get used to it." The red lights on the cameras glowed steady now, no longer blinking. I could hear the faint whir of their lenses shifting, focusing closer. My chest tightened. Marla moved past me with unhurried steps, her bare feet whispering across the concrete. She circled the chair bolted in the center of the room and rested her hand on the cold metal back like she was showing it off. "Do you know how much this setup cost?" she asked. Her voice was calm, conversational, but her eyes were sharp. "You can't buy this kind of soundproofing at Home Depot. Had to special order it. Worth every penny." I forced a laugh that cracked halfway out of my throat. "You're messing with me, right? Like some kind of weird performance art?" She tilted her head, considering me. "You think too small. Nobody watches performance art." Her words didn't make sense until I noticed the small light on the generator box. Streaming. It was connected to a router stacked on a shelf, wires snaking into a panel drilled into the wall. Someone was watching. Right now. I swallowed hard, my tongue like sandpaper. "I think I should go." Marla's smile twitched. "Go where?" I turned toward the stairs, but the door at the top was shut. No knob on this side, just smooth wood. My pulse hammered. Marla tapped the chair, metal ringing against her knuckle. "It's easier if you sit. They don't like it when people waste time." "They?" The word slipped out of me before I could stop it. She didn't answer, just stared, her smile thinning, her eyes waiting for me to understand. The cameras clicked again, zooming tighter. My name echoed suddenly through the generator's tiny speaker, distorted, robotic. Someone typed it. Someone was watching and sending commands. Marla's face softened, almost gentle. "Don't make me drag you." Every muscle in me screamed to run, but there was nowhere to go. The walls were padded, the only door sealed. I backed up until my spine hit the foam. It gave slightly, a soft rustle, and I realized the stains weren't just random. They had shape. Finger streaks. Smears. "Why?" My voice cracked. "Why me?" Her smile returned, slow, deliberate. "Because you answered. Do you know how rare that is? Someone willing to come without telling anyone where they're going?" My stomach lurched. She stepped closer, brushing my shoulder with her hand. Calm, steady, almost tender. You'd be shocked how hard it is to find someone like you, someone no one's waiting up for. The words gutted me because they were true. The cameras whirred louder. The speaker crackled again. Closer. Marla leaned in, her breath warm against my ear. Sit. Now. My legs buckled, whether from fear or obedience, I don't know. I lowered myself into the chair. The metal was ice against my skin. She moved fast, practiced. Ropes were looped around my wrists before I could wrench away. Each knot cinched tight, groaning against the frame. The speaker crackled again. Smile. Marla tilted my chin toward the nearest camera, her nails digging in. Her grin widened as she whispered, "They like to watch when it's real." The overhead light buzzed. I blinked through sweat stinging my eyes, and for a second I thought I saw shapes moving behind the padded walls, shadows pressed close like faces watching through fabric. The speaker boomed once more, louder this time. "Begin!" Marla's expression changed. The playful edge was gone. She picked up something from the shelf, long, gleaming steel that caught the light. The camera zoomed in. I screamed, twisting against the ropes, the chair rattling against the bolts. But it didn't matter. The last thing I saw before the light flared white was Marla's smile. Calm, steady, almost affectionate, as if she wasn't doing this to me, but for them. And the cameras never stopped recording.